So I just got through talking about, I'm gonna go to the video where I'm contemplating over the fact of how stuff is seeming to take a while. I'm just gonna kind of play it in the background of this. But general synopsis, I'm sitting here thinking like how all of this seems to be prolonged. You can hear me right. But and I'm venting for the most part. So I sit here and I'm thinking about all the various things as far as how this stuff has been prolonged, um, things that I've gone through, and things that have kind of, it's like it's sitting on pause. And for the most part, I'm kind of past this pause moment. And I was saying, I think like my mother seems like she's actually helping, but don't get it twisted. Only being what's the word, sense of a voice of reason, let's say that. Only being a voice of reason to me, unless somebody else knows something other than, like, is that actually her voice that y'all are utilizing a lot that's going kind of back and forth, um, or making it appear as such. But, so I would think about, like, the Apple product, right? So I'm sitting here like, okay, I need to get this Apple product so I can go ahead and kind of compile everything this um, on this device. And they pretty much ordered it, but it's going to take a little while longer. And I'm sitting here like, once I get that and this other thing for it, I can just zoom through compiling everything, and I can kind of digitally organize everything. And once I do that, it's kind of over. You know what I mean? Like, there's different things that you can kind of, what's the word, um, push through as far as misunderstandings or a explanation where you pass the point, get explanation point. Meaning, like, you should explain the point of something, because what's going to initially happen is it's going to get congested. It's getting congested in my head. And once it gets congested in my head, I feel like you're starting to try to, like, fill me with a whole bunch of rigmarole. Like, I'm going to start trying to um, variate the, or take the variants and align them in ways to which it makes sense. Meaning, this over here, that over here, why you did this, why you pointed a finger, and then try to line it up. And then should have been who should have been responsible, who has responsibility over. And I start thinking, somebody's getting all these, what's to call it, like my SD card. That's still not a big whoop. Um, I have enough already as far as to showcase the background noise. So I'm not sitting here worried about that as much, even if somebody tried to destroy evidence. You know what I'm saying? Because there's still enough there to coincide with things going on and 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 going on. So I'm not really mad. I'm mad that it kind of seems like it's happening or somebody's trying it, but there's still going to be proof in the wings. So once all of that comes into play, it's just going to be like, hands down, no ifs, ands, or buts. That's just what it's going to be. And it's going to showcase a lot of things in my favor. Big time. Like, big time in my favor. So I'm just like thinking in the back of my mind, like, okay, while y'all are saying that you're going to try to blame or point a finger that way, she's buying y'all time. And that doesn't mean that she's helping us. She wants us to try to set herself. No. That just means she wants you to actually probably think about if he gets an attorney or go out the country. Like, he's not the type to want to do that, take that drastic of a step. But I would be the type to do that because you know what I wanted out of life. Like I want a child to be happy, be comfortable, raise mine. And I would have done, or I was doing, everything and every opportunity that came up to try to get to that point. It's just a whole lot of weird stuff occurred that kept shaking me. And I'm just like, why is this happening? What is this about? Okay, this is going on. What is that? You know what I mean? Like all these different things where I'm like, it's not it's not normal. You know what I mean? Like, so and it's my trying to say, oh, is this or is that? But baby, the hospitals don't have they have proof going against what people are saying, actually. And I think there was one time, but that's completely explained. Um, and after that, it's kind of like all these weird occurrences where people have dropped the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of weird occurrences where people have dropped the ball, and it comes to the point to where you're not trying to suck up to somebody. You're trying to actually show that you have the capability to actually be a leader. Spoiler. And I'm kind of seeming like the only person that kind of want to do that to me because I haven't really spoken with this other party per se. But that's another reason why they're probably like, oh, da da da. Because when you think about it, what? I'm the only one that's like, you know what? This ain't right. This, like, you use somebody that's not a leader, that's a user. Somebody that goes and is like, you know what? I'm in the shits. You know what I mean? Like, and ain't nobody gonna help me do this. Anybody gonna help me do that? And you're like, oh, that's where you're confused because you are only enjoying what you know. Like I said about the whole writing thing, I would have been written. I would have written so much that they would have had to come to me. Like they would be like, you know what, let's go there before he comes to us. Because if he comes to us, and everything is retractable. Some stuff is becoming unretractable, meaning like you put this, oh, well, this was because we kept saying it. Okay, we can kind of see that. Or you pull this back, that's because he didn't know we were actually going to do it. Somebody that should have gave the written documentation and didn't do it. Oh, okay. And you do, well, what about you writing? Well, they're still a part of y'all. So I'm like, you can clearly say, oh, something got way out of hand, if it even went there. Because that's another thing. Like, I'm sitting here like, okay, if somebody's talking about controlling things, has it really even gone there? Granted, I've sat and done due diligence, but has it gone there? And is every component of the situation supposed to be covered up? Another thing is, I went to the whatchamacallit the other day, and they're like, oh, we got you. Whatchamacallit, I was like, well, maybe it's not supposed to be covered up with them. Like, maybe they were doing their own internal investigation. Like, hold on, let's figure out, because every employee is not a good employee. And why y'all sitting there trying to blame the entity? Sometimes it's not the entity itself, it's bad apples. So I'm like, you're sitting here like, oh, well, we're trying to da da da. Like, okay, well, maybe they already had a plan, but people doing this and doing that is like you stirring stuff up and you're mixing stuff up and da da da. So it's like, okay. I'm almost to the point where I'm like, it's pushed past, and I'm like, okay, it's pushing past. It's about to be fall, and that bridge is going to fall down. Like I'm already got pulled some pulled videotapes. I requested a whole bunch of videotapes from calls, and oh, I gotta do that. Request audio, and I'll do all those next week. And those usually take like a month or two turnaround. So I'll have the explanations, I'll have some of the videos, I'll have some of the audio, I'll have some of the complaints, I'll have some of the documentation from where I went into the hospital and said this or said this, or they said this and said that, or sent a notification to the hospital letting them know that this happened, and even asking them if they investigated or not. If they come back and say they didn't, and if a lot of people already know, which they're kind of showing now, it's going to be like, and like that's kind of how people may be helping, but I'm like, you still have to almost, if one person puts their foot down, right, everybody has to put their foot down. You can't sit there and say, oh, well, we're putting our foot down, or we're putting our foot down over here for, I think, what was it called? Necessary means or something. It's something where you do something, but it was necessary at the moment. So if somebody's like, oh, well, I had to bend a few rules to try to help this person out. Okay, that's granted. They might try to come after that person. Sure. But you have to sit here and realize that only makes it stronger. Because it's going to be like, well, y'all came after this person, but that was the very one tool that could have proved A, B, C, or D. So why would you? And that takes that veil off. Or that person was just using and da da da, and they prove A, B, and C. And that takes that veil off. But I'm like, at some point you gotta take a veil off. And if I take it off,